Hello everyone, Luke here, and today I'm going to be talking about Formula 1 and probably the most hotly contested job in F1. Luckily though, for everyone who wants it, there's two of them up for grabs next season. I am talking about the Mercedes Formula 1 driver's seats. Both Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas are out of contract at the end of 2021, and even though there's new rules, you'd still expect the Silver Arrows to be at the front next season. And why wouldn't you want to join the team that has currently won 7 consecutive drivers and constructors championships and is currently in pole position to make it 8? But who could possibly line up for the Brackley based team next season? Let's take a look at the drivers Mercedes have got at the moment then in Formula 1. We'll start with the man who's got the most wins in Formula 1 history, the most pole positions in Formula 1 history, the most podiums in Formula 1 history. And let's be honest, with the way the season has started, by the end of the year, he'll probably have the most titles as well. I am, of course, talking about Sir Lewis Hamilton. Why wouldn't Mercedes want to keep him for 2022? He looks on top of his game at the moment, despite being 36 years old. He's coping with everything Max Verstappen and Red Bull can throw at him. Why not keep him? Why not keep him for at least another season, maybe 2, if he wants that? And it is his age that is only the slight downside about keeping Lewis for the future. Is he's not a long-term investment. At some point, he's going to retire. He's into music. He's into getting involved with politics. He's into so many different things. He's going to want to move on at some point, and Mercedes have to be prepared for that. So maybe do need to start thinking about who they can put in to possibly be his successor. Of course, Lewis's teammate since 2017 has been the Finn Valtteri Bottas, and in many ways he's been the ideal number 2, the ideal backup, the Andrew Ridgeley to Lewis Hamilton's George Michael. He does a solid job. That's all you can say about Valtteri Bottas. Very rarely do you see terrible performances, admittedly. In the wet, he leaves plenty to be desired. But unless it's the Russian Grand Prix, you never really see anything superbly fantastic from Bottas. And you can tell that by the way Mercedes give him a contract. He had a 1-year contract in 2017, and 2018, and 19, and 20. And for 2021, if Mercedes had a lot of faith in him for the future, wouldn't they give him a longer contract? He does keep doing a solid job. Mercedes have won the Constructors' title every year since he's joined. But you do wonder if Red Bull got a bit closer to Mercedes like they look to have done in 2021, if other teams get closer, would he still be able to perform that backup job? And would it be good enough if Lewis Hamilton retires? Is Valtteri Bottas really the man you're going to want to lead your Formula 1 team? Luckily for Mercedes, if they do want to employ someone else other than Hamilton or Bottas, they already employ someone else, apart from Hamilton or Bottas. George Russell, of course, currently at Williams, been in Formula 1 since 2019 after winning the 2018 Formula 2 Championship, and he has had one shot in a Mercedes at the Sakir Grand Prix last year, and he probably did the best job you could expect him to do. He qualified just behind Valtteri Bottas, the only time Russell has been out-qualified by a Formula 1 teammate in what is coming up to something like 45 races now in F1, a fantastic achievement. And he could have won that race. Valtteri Bottas was catching him up before the safety car which came out, but then everything went wrong. There was a tyre mix-up. Russell and Bottas dropped down the field. The Brit fought his way back up, and then he got a puncture and could only recover to 9th position. But it was a splendid job, and maybe, just maybe, that's why Lewis wanted to get in for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. He didn't want to give Russell another opportunity in that Mercedes, and I think Bottas was probably a tiny bit relieved. However, despite Russell's clear qualifying talent, when he's had chances to score points in that Williams, things have tended to go wrong. 2019 German Grand Prix was ahead of Kubica, made a lock-up in the wet conditions. Many other drivers made mistakes that day, but it cost him a point. And then crashing out under the safety car at the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix in 2020, and the one which might have just cost him a bit more than those, crashing into Bottas at the Imola Grand Prix this season. Yes, you could argue as much as you want that Bottas shouldn't have been battling with a Williams, but Toto Wolff was definitely not impressed with how Russell reacted to that. He's got fantastic amounts of pace, and we'll see whether Mercedes, in the end, decide to go for a punt on a young driver. Now, that's not something they've really done in Formula 1 history. Just ask Pascal Wehrlein. Just ask Esteban Ocon. Now, admittedly, the last time Mercedes were looking for a driver after Nico Rosberg retired in 2016, Ocon had only done a few races in F1 for Manor. He wasn't really experienced enough to take after the reigning world champion, let's be perfectly honest. He didn't do too bad for the Force India/Racing Point in 2017 and 2018. Sergio Perez did beat him on points, 162 to 136 over those 2 seasons, but for your first 2 seasons in Formula 1, it was a very respectable job from the Frenchman. Then he spent a season as a test driver for Mercedes after Lawrence Stroll, unsurprisingly, decided to put Lance in that seat for 2019. And in 2020, he started pretty poorly, let's be honest, against Daniel Ricciardo. He didn't really look to have the edge on the Australian. When things really came together for him is when Mercedes fell apart at Sakir, as we spoke about a few moments ago, getting his first ever podium in that race with a second position just behind his old teammate Sergio Perez. And he's carried that form on into 2021 up against Fernando Alonso, a man who has destroyed many teammates, as we'll talk about later. He's 4-0 up in the races. He looks to have the pace on the Spaniard. Yes, Alonso, he's getting a bit older, might not be as quick, and yes, he's still getting used to the car, but there's no doubt the Frenchman is doing an absolutely fantastic job. Will it be enough, though, to just tempt Mercedes to bring him back within their fold? I'm sure we've all heard the saying, if you can't beat them, join them. I wonder if Max Verstappen's heard that as well. Could he be tempted away from Red Bull, a team which brought him into Formula 1 at the age of 17 with Toro Rosso, a team which promoted him into the senior seat at the age of 18, winning his first race with them at Barcelona, a team which finally looks to be getting things together and possibly challenging for the World Championship? Is Verstappen ready to leave all that behind and take a risk joining Mercedes for 2022? He is younger than most of the people on this list, but let's not confuse age with experience. This is his 7th full season in Formula 1, and I think he's finally ready to start regularly challenging for these championships, but perhaps not at Mercedes for 2022. There are big regulation changes happening next year, and I think he wants to see whether Red Bull get things right on the aero side and the engine side. Red Bull are taking over the Honda engine program, which could be a massive risk. If it goes well, I don't see Verstappen leaving. If it doesn't go well, maybe, just maybe, he'll think about moving to the Silver Arrows in the not too distant future. Let's look at 2 other Mercedes drivers. 2 drivers that have won Formula 2/GP2 and are currently doing a fantastic job for Mercedes in Formula E. Stoffel, Vandoorne and Nick de Vries. We'll start with the Belgian driver first, who when he burst onto the scene with that fantastic debut at Bahrain in 2016, fresh off of winning GP2 in 2015, he was brilliant. Scored points on his debut, out-qualified world champion Jenson Button. We all thought this man could be big. He could really bring McLaren up in the future to win races, possibly even championships for the Woking-based team. His full debut in 2017, however, was badly hamstrung by the terrible Honda engine that year, and in 2018, new engines, same performance really. The car wasn't brilliant, and he wasn't either. Absolutely trounced by Fernando Alonso, 21-0 in qualifying. Unsurprisingly, McLaren dropped him at the end of that season, and he's done okay in Formula E since. It's just that shadow might hang over him, forever stopping him getting into Formula 1 again, and he is 30 next season. Time perhaps not on his side to build himself back up, and it would be a big risk for Mercedes to take. Stoffel's teammate in Formula 2 is Nick de Vries, the only F2 champion since it was rebranded at the start of the 2017 season, not to race in Formula 1. Instead, he did jump straight into Formula E, and he's done an okay job in that so far, winning his first race this season, and he is currently second in the championship. Again, a bit like Stoffel, former McLaren junior driver, but he never got that chance in F1 for one reason or the other, and I can't see Mercedes just giving him an opportunity in the top team straight away. If they had a junior team, I think he'd have been absolutely perfect for that, but they don't at the moment, so maybe if Russell moves to Mercedes, would we see de Vries want to go into a Williams? Looking at how poor they've been doing over the last couple of seasons, I think he's probably better off staying in Formula E. And finally, we're going to finish off with a man who will be driving a Mercedes F1 car a lot more often than most of the others on this list will in 2021. Romain Grosjean. Do I ever think he'll drive a Mercedes in F1? Definitely not. Do I ever think he'll race in Formula 1 again for any team? Definitely not, and I don't see why he'd want to. Why would you leave IndyCar at the moment? He's doing an absolutely fantastic job. Do I think, though, some team might take a punt on him as a simulator driver? I don't see why not. He is incredibly experienced. He is an incredibly quick driver. At the end of 2013, when Sebastian Vettel was going on this ridiculous run of winning races, quite often Grosjean was either in second or third. He was incredibly consistent. He's just not been able to show his best form in the Haas. And with that experience, why wouldn't a team, in the limited time of testing, as things are moving more and more towards simulators, why not give Grosjean a go? It's only a one-off test at Mercedes that he'll be doing at Paul Ricard, but we'll wait and see if it develops into anything. Who do I think will be driving for Mercedes in 2022? I'd say Lewis Hamilton is a 99.999% certainty to be at the Silver Arrows. He seems keen for it to happen. The team seem keen for it to happen. I think it will be confirmed at the latest during the summer break. They won't want it hanging over them into the races after summer, starting at the Belgian Grand Prix, because if they're in a championship battle with Verstappen, it's just an extra distraction that you don't need. His teammate, on the other hand, that is a lot less certain. I think Valtteri Bottas is probably still the slight favourite. It's just whether Mercedes think they can have the faith in him to maybe help out if Red Bull, if Ferrari, if Alpine, if anyone gets closer next season with the new regulations. And if Bottas doesn't consistently prove to be a fantastic number 2 this year, they might think it's time for a change. If it's not Bottas, I'd say George Russell is the next most likely, despite that crash at Imola kind of ruining his cred with Toto Wolff ever so slightly. He definitely looks quick, and I think it's probably Mercedes or bust for Russell in 2022. He won't want to stay at Williams another season, so he needs to prove that he's got the temperament to cope in these high-pressure situations. Next time he's got a point-scoring opportunity for Williams, I think he has to take it. If it's neither of those, if Esteban Ocon keeps doing the fantastic job he's doing at Alpine, beats Alonso over the season, maybe picking up the odd podium, he might be tempted away from the French Dream Team to have a shot at Mercedes for 2022. What is crucial, though, for all the drivers involved is that they have got to be on the top of their form if they want to be driving for the Silver Arrows next year. Well, that's the end of this video. Thank you everyone so much for watching. Leave a comment down below who you think will be driving for Mercedes, either out of the 8 drivers that I have looked at, or maybe there's someone else you think I've overlooked. Leave a like and subscribe if you've enjoyed it. Make sure to check out the rest of my socials down below: Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and Discord. And I will see you next time around. Goodbye.